But Castillo is not in jail because he made some corrupt acts. No, he tried to make a coup d'état on the 7th December of 2022. He tried to make a coup d'état, but nobody supported him, even the army. The army, let's say the Peruvian army, let's say, no, we are not going to support anything. We support democracy. We support the constitution. So Castillo tried to escape to the Mexico embassy, but the people, no, the citizens themselves, they stopped him. No, he was like, let's say, he was really delayed by the traffic because he didn't escape on a helicopter. He was running in on a car. So the people, the citizens, Lima citizens, stopped him, and they didn't allow him to escape onto the Mexico embassy. So now he's in jail because he tried to make a coup d'état. So that's a really serious crime.
Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you. Welcome to the Party Pal. This is Fountainhead Forum 375. I'm talking to Alejandro Rameth, who is a lawyer in Arequipa, Peru. I've heard so many wonderful things about this city, although I've not visited. And I just love Peru. And Peru, well, they impeached yet another president, and I guess they like to impeach and arrest their presidents down there. So they've been doing it a lot lately. But Peru is pointed out that Peru's currency is relatively stable. So maybe they do something that the rest of South America doesn't. How are you, Alejandro?
Well, hi, Chris. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah.
To share you some experience and some data about Peru.
Yeah, Alejandro, I got to ask first of all, so how'd you get into libertarianism?
Well, let's say since I was a child, I always defend capitalism, but it wasn't until the COVID pandemics that I started to read. No, because the only big book I wrote before pandemics was The Wealth of the Nations by Adam Smith. But during pandemics, I had a lot of free time to read, so I could read the Austrian economists. So I started with Hazlitt, or economics in one lesson, and after obviously I wrote Hayek, Mises, Rothbard, and Hoppe. No, and also a lot of Latin American authors that also write about economics. No, also Peter, for example. Yeah.
When you said Hope, I think you mean Hoppe, Hoppe.
Yes, yeah. Hans Hermann Hoppe. And nowadays he's a very controversial person, even in the libertarian movement. Yeah, but I also wrote about him. He has some interesting points, the same as Walter Block.
Yes.
So that is, yeah, he also is interesting. And since that, and now I defended my country and I spread those ideas in Peru. Let's say last week we finished a big campaign. We were selling books, no libertarian books. So we were like the first store here in my town in the history that sells libertarian books, no, about economics, philosophy, law. Now, for example, a really interesting book by law was made by Bruno Leoni, Liberty and the Law. It's a really good book.
Bruno Leoni. Yeah, I've heard of him. That's Leoni for people who might want to look that up. Yeah.
Yeah, the Italian. He was an Italian lawyer, also praised by Hayek. Yeah, a really good book.
Yeah, there's a lot of good work out there. I got to ask Alejandro. I assume you've at least been somewhat following what's been happening in Argentina. What do you think about all that?
Well, I think President Milei, he's doing a great job. No, the people in Argentina voted for him just for one big concern, to eliminate inflation.
Yeah,
inflation, let's say, is the worst problem in Argentina, and in that part, he's doing a great job. What's the problem? The main problem, maybe you talk about that with Agustin and with other Argentinians. He doesn't have enough political support. So, if we want him to display all his measures against not only inflation but to give Argentinians liberty back, uh, he needs more political support. That's my
Yeah, I think he's, I saw his book in the airport in Lima, and I just thought, well, they definitely know about him. You know,
yeah.
you all have at least been pretty stable on the currency. I mean, I go back 5 years, the dollar would get 3.58 soles. Uh, Obviously, it's been up and down, but right now the dollar is at about 3.44 soles. So that's not really a lot of fluctuation. It went up to over 4 for a while there, but really you can't really say it's really been pretty stable there. And
Yeah, no, well, I
yeah,
think since the beginning of the century,
yeah,
the Peruvian sol has been the dominant currency in Latin America, obviously with the dollar,
yes,
But uh, why is the reason for this? I think it's the high volatility of the local currencies. For
yeah,
example, the Bolivian peso, no, or Boliviano. Here next to Peru is Bolivia. We share
yes,
borders also with Chile. For example, they suffer a lot of economic instability.
mhm,
For example, Bolivia's economy depends too much on the natural gas exports, no? And when the gas prices completely fell down in 2022, they started to suffer, no, the economic consequences on an economy that depends only on natural gas exports, for example, in Bolivia. And nowadays, in October 2025, in northern Bolivia, they are using Peruvian sol as
mhm,
as the main currency.
yeah,
It's incredible, but that thing is happening now. Also, in some parts of Brazil, now near to Peru, because we also share borders with Brazil, they are using Peruvian sol because it's more valuable than the Brazilian real. No, so
that's
kind of
wild. I mean, I hear about people using in other countries using American dollars, but I've not heard about them using Peruvian soles. I mean, maybe it's because it's cool that you all named your currency after the sun, the Peruvian sol. So it's the Peruvian sun. I don't
yeah.
know if there's any other currency in the world that's actually named after the sun. So I
Mm,
think that's very interesting.
maybe, for example, in Guatemala, their currency is the quetzal,
Yeah,
and they name it after Quetzalcoatl, he was an ancient god, but he was kind of related to the sun. Maybe
yeah.
there is some, some kind of related thing about with the sun for example, in Guatemala. But yeah, it's kind of unique, the Peruvian sol. And we have a really, really stable currency since 1993, which was the year that they wrote a new constitution, no, the Constitution of 1993. A lot of economists say that this constitution was the key part to begin the economic growth in the country because the last one, the Constitution of 1979, was a socialist model constitution. No? So they have a lot of intervention by the state, but they also promote, for example, the working laborers. They were promoting, let's say, the state companies that we know that they are the worst idea is a state-owned company, okay? Because they don't produce anything. They always have economic losses, and everyone have to pay that losses with their own taxes. So it's a really bad idea. But since 1993, uh, people can trade almost freely. We don't have too much taxes, and obviously, Peruvian government cannot increase the tax rates because nobody would pay. Because if you see Peruvian's economy, most of the people works, like, let's say, illegally. No, But let's say as libertarians, this not illegally. They work apart from the state, separate from the state, because they don't want to pay too much taxes. No, so for us,
Yeah,
it's not.
it's still from what I've noticed, it's still very much a cash society, and you have a lot of these people who who live out in the rainforest, and the indigenous people who don't even have banks at all. So they literally just live with they have their cash, and that's about it. Because Peru is still very divided among the descendants of the Europeans and the indigenous. So let's get on to the political situation here. I mean, for example, I notice going back to 2016, there was Kuczynski, who was 1 year and 238 days. Vizcarra was 2 years, 231 days. Merino, 5 days. Sagasti, 253 days. Castillo, 1 year, 132 days. Dina Boliarte, 2 years, 307 days. And now you just, Jose Hari. So you've been changing presidents a lot lately. So what can you say about what's going on right now?
Wait, well, uh, a lot of people could say we have a huge political crisis,
Yeah.
but I can say you that the constitution allows. The reason for that is one of the articles we have. I think is the 117 articles that say that the Congress. Here we have a Congress. They can shut down the presidency um, when, for example, he presents his ministers. No, and if the Congress doesn't give them the confidence twice, no, the president can shut down the Congress. But also, we have that vision of the moral incapacity. No, that say it's like a political impeachment against the president. So the Congress made that against Kuczynski. They made that against Vizcarra. They made that against, well, 2 days ago against Dina Boluarte. So we have this 117 article that talks about, let's say, a political impeachment against the president. So the constitution allows that technically. So the problem is that only three of that president were elected in a democratic election. The rest of them were like the vice president that continue the work after the president have that impeachment, and he have to get back home. No, well,
Yeah.
most of them they didn't get back home. Now the most of them are in jail because all of them were accused of corruption. So
Yes.
we have problems with our politicians. We have a huge problem with our politicians.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when I heard Vizcarra got removed, I said, well, unfortunately, they didn't remove him for all his coronavirus policies, which would have been justified because I know I'm closer to Peru than a lot of other countries, and especially at the time. But I mean, I know, for example, it was men could go out 3 days a week, women could go out 3 days a week, nobody could go out on Sunday. A woman got arrested for taking out her trash. It was just plain awful, and this is a country that really couldn't afford it, especially considering, and I know people who ran retreat centers and stuff, and they were just destroyed by all of this. But so is this just are these accusations of corruption? Are they realistic, or are they just somebody trying to get back at the opposition?
Yeah. Uh, well, our former presidents, let's say, they always will say that this is a lawfare, no, against them. They are applying lawfare against them. But for example, Castillo,
Yes,
he's in
lawfare.
jail.
Yes.
Yeah, but Castillo is not in jail because he made some corrupt acts. No, he tried to make a coup d'état on the 7th December of 2022. He tried to make a coup d'état, but nobody supported him, even the army. The army, let's say, the Peruvian army, let's say, no, we are not going to support anything. We support democracy, we support the constitution. So Castillo tried to escape to the Mexico embassy, but the people, though the citizens themselves, they stopped him. No, he was like, let's say, he was really delayed by the traffic because he didn't escape on a helicopter. He was running on a car. So the people, the citizens, Lima citizens, stopped him, and they didn't allow him to escape onto the Mexico embassy. So now he's in jail because he tried to make a coup d'état. So that's a really really serious crime. So the other presidents, yeah, they make a lot of bad things. For example, Vizcarra. This is a really sad episode because the COVID killed a lot of Peruvians. Let's say 100,000 to 250,000 people died
Yeah.
from COVID in our country. So yeah, as you say, the government applied some stupid measures, really, really stupid measures. For example, uh, let's say if you go to the beach, for example, now in October, very few people go to the beach because now because we are near the Pacific Ocean, and, we don't have like let's say really hot weather beaches. Now we are like in, let's say, 18 degrees Celsius, no, near the sea. So very few people go to the beach, and it's really worse in June. That is winter. So we have 15 degrees. Very few people go to the beach, but to the really few people that were technically alone in the beach, they took him to the jail because there were few people that were going. They were walking near the beach, and we were on quarantine, so that was illegal. But they weren't doing any harm to nobody. They were walking along the beach, so they took them to the jail, and in the jail they they got the virus. So it was really ironically stupid how all the measures you also were saying that measures not only we have like a joke here because in our country most of the products we eat we consume at home uh, they were women have a lot of power there, no, their decisions is important. Women here are the ones that decide what we eat normally. So the men, for example, on Mondays, on Wednesdays, and Fridays, we go outside and buy our groceries. But on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, the women return the bad things, the wrong things we bought, and they return them, and they bought the correct things for home. So we were like joking with that because normally it's the women with the man house buy the groceries because the man has the let's say the money and the women choose the product. So we couldn't do that on pandemics. Also at least for 1 month that measure was applied. So it was really there were a lot of confusions, and as I told you, a lot of people were died because of the government measures, because for example there were a big lack of oxygen, and the government say we will put let's say some measures to get more oxygen, but no, they didn't make that. So a lot of people die because the lack of oxygen, for example, no? the so yeah, it was a really 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 sad episode. They try to make say I don't know, like say balance cap to the oxygen, and that also affects our economy. An oxygen tank reached like let's say $500, so it was really expensive. So
Yeah.
that
So
was covered by the government.
yeah. So now, I mean, how free would you say Peru is right now? I mean, it's pretty easy to start a business there or not. I mean, I was intrigued when I was in Iquitos. I saw so many people just out on the street selling just about anything. I mean, they'd sell fruits out of fruit baskets or little homemade jewelry or other things. It seemed like a lot of people were out there just hustling, and of course you just wave your hand and you can flag down a tuk tuk to get a ride. Uh, Lima is very different though. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
like, I mean, Iquitos really is like a separate country all by itself. But yeah, so yeah, and but a lot of cases, I didn't really notice that there were a lot of people who went to the beach because it looked like it was just, and in so many cases, it's just a cliff going right into the beach. So there's not really a lot of beach there, period. It's just,
yeah, it was really stupid the measures the
yeah,
government Vizcarra made. For example, they accused Vizcarra because when let's say the treatment for the COVID arrived in Peru, and a lot of people were asking for that, especially the older people, no. But let's say when the vaccines arrived, Vizcarra was the first person to receive that, no, and he was negotiating with the Chinese government. We didn't receive the Americans' vaccines. We first bought the Chinese vaccines, and they weren't so effective because after that, the second wave, COVID wave arrived, and more people died.
mhm,
So yeah, it was really a disaster. So if we talk about the economy, if you see the index, the economic index of, let's say, Freedom House or Heritage Foundation,
yeah,
you will see that Peru is like a mostly free country.
yeah,
So we are the middle. We are not Somalia, we are not North Korea, but we are also not Singapore or, let's say, Iceland or New Zealand. No, we are in the middle. So what's our problem? Some of our institutions, the government technically respect your private property, but we have some taxes that they need to be eliminated. Also, if we eliminate some taxes, it would be suitable to eliminate all of them. But if we eliminate some taxes, we would have a really, really free economy. That's why the people normally they trade apart from the state because they don't want to pay taxes. The taxes, let's say, are a problem in our economy. So the only thing the taxes do normally is to to they make more expensive the goods. No.
yes,
So that's why the people normally they don't give, let's say, the bill because they don't want to pay the taxes. No, when you buy to those people in the in the street,
yeah,
now that they are selling things on the street, uh, most probably they don't give you a receipt because
yeah.
if they give you a receipt, you have to pay. No, the IVA, that tax
Oh,
when you
certainly.
buy.
Yeah, there does also seem to be, as you pointed out, they wouldn't let Castillo leave the country. The people just kind of stopped him. It seems like the people are pretty vigilant down there. They certainly, whether or not I'm not sure what they're protesting for, but they certainly seem to get out there and protest a lot. What can you tell me about that?
Well, in Latin America, we have a big problem because citizens, we used to go out to the street and protest. For example, 1 month after Castillo was elected president,
Yes.
and we have a lot of fear because Castillo considered himself a Marxist.
Yeah.
He came from a Marxist party, political party. So we make a lot of pacific protesters. We were pacific protesters, but on the other side, when the left, especially the let's say the far left parties, they are not happy with the president, so they have like, let's say, 500 to 1,000 people that always want to destroy everything. No, so they say they are protesting, yeah, but they're making vandalic acts. So at the
Yeah.
same time they are protesting, they are destroying the public and private property. So uh, that's why nowadays people they think twice after going to the street to protest because it's turning like France. No, in France also we have those radical far left people that are protesting because they they want more taxes, apply more taxes to the rich people. They want more public spending. So we are, and also for we are against that. But the problem is that, for example, in 2023, after Castillo was imprisoned, a
Yeah.
lot of, especially in South Peru, they start to protesting but they started to destroying things. For example, in my hometown, some people know those vandalic far left people, protesters, they destroyed part of the airport. So they are not protesting; they are destroying things. So
Yes.
the police have to act, and some people die. So they are accusing the government of Dina that she was a killer, that she sent the police officers to kill the protesters, but that was false because they were destroying everything. No, they wanted to stop Peruvian's economy because they blocked the airports, they blocked the roads. So that was crazy. Even when they went to Lima, they one day they were going to the U.S. embassy. No, that was a really chaotic episode because they wanted to surround the U.S. embassy in Lima is kind of big. We have a really big building, the U.S. embassy, but on the top of the building, I don't know if they were the Rangers of the Marines. They were preparing their guns just in case the protesters wanted to enter to the embassy. But uh, fortunately, Peruvian police, let's say, they convinced them to go away because they were going to produce a really violent episode there.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were, there certainly is a difference between going out and rallying or protesting and just trying to destroy things and blocking traffic. Unfortunately, seems to be a what do you think they're protesting for? Are they protesting for anything?
Yeah, I know. In every protest I went or I heard about the radical for left protesters, they always ask to change our constitution. They want to make a new constitution, uh, like let's say they're following the model of Venezuela or Bolivia or Ecuador, that during the beginning of the 21st century they
Yeah.
changed their constitution following the style of Chavez's constitution of 1999. So yeah, most of them they if you ask them, most of them they will say we need a new constitution, let's say, to reach the social justice, to reach rights for everyone, to give a strong state. No, that's they want. They want to turn Peru into Venezuela, into Bolivia, into that socialist style constitution. No? That's mostly what they want. And obviously, they will not tell you, but they want to destroy the country. They want to destroy the infrastructure. If you destroy that, you will affect a lot to the Peruvian economy because Peruvian's economy is really dynamic. We need a lot of transportation, not only to transport goods, but also to transport people. So we have, for example, about mining, we have huge complexes. We have a lot of investments there. So the radical before left, no, they are against mining companies. They always block the roads near the mining, let's say the mining camps. No, and that the mining sector uh, have a really really big investment. Let's say that mining is a really important industry in Peru, and the far left they are against it because most of them are private investors, no, from other countries. So the far left is against the investment. No, us, all Latin America, no, the socialists are against the private sector.
Yes, memory of the private sector. Yeah. So, is it sometimes also? I knew a friend who was actually witnessed a lot of protests down in PSAC. Is it sometimes more the indigenous Peruvians protesting against perceived wrongs by the more European people, or is that still because I know there is still some prejudice down there. So what can you say about that?
No, well, the truth is that we have a really few indigenous people. No, the true 100% indigenous people. Most of us, we are a mixture, no, between the indigenous, let's say, no, Inca people with the Spanish, And in the 19th century, a lot of Chinese came. No, we received a lot of Chinese migration, also Japanese migration. For example, President Fujimori, he was a descendant from Japanese migrants. No, so Peru is a really diverse country, not only on landscapes. We are really diverse country also in races, let's say, because we also receive European migration, some Italians, some British, some French people. We also receive people from Palestine. For example, me, myself, I'm descendant from my mom's side from Turkish migrants. So we have a really diverse country talking about that. And the few indigenous people that live in the Andes Mountains, uh,
Or the
they
rainforest.
also in the rainforest, yeah.
Yeah.
But the people that protest more, indigenous people that protest more in Peru they come from the Andes Mountains, because in the jungle people used to they developed ways to survive by themselves, but in the Andes Mountains, yeah, a lot of hard Marxist speech, and also not only normal Marxist, but Maoist Chinese Marxist thinking was spread in the Andes Mountains. So they caused a lot of, let's say, how can I say, resentment. No, so a lot of them are really resentful people. No, not because they are considered less, because that they consider that they were abandoned by the state, because they think that the state should give them more things. That's why normally, for example, in Pisac, that's in Cusco region, sometimes every 2 months the people block the roads. They also block the rail roads that are key to access to Machu Picchu. So if you block the railroad, tourists cannot enter to Machu Picchu. And that's stupid because you block your access to money, because the tourists, they are a key part in Cusco's economy, for example. No, and if you
Yeah.
don't allow the tourists to enter to Machu Picchu, you cause an economic disaster to yourself, to your own community. No, sounds strange, but things happen like that. No, you don't allow the tourists enter to a world wonder, to a big tourist destination, but that money stays there in your economy. Why you are against the tourism? I don't know. But that's because the leaders, they have that leftist propaganda against the tourism.
That's unfortunate. I think Peru probably depends on a lot of tourism. I mean, you get people going to Machu Picchu, you get people going to Iquitos for plant medicines. I mean, I certainly have there's a that brings in a lot of money. So that was really how Peru got hurt a lot by the policies of 2020 with no international money coming in. Uh, so what do you who are some of the people that you'd consider good guys and or good guys or good women in Peru who are fighting for liberty right now? Is anybody really fighting for liberty, or is it just different factions fighting over the spoils?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Let's say the average Peruvian person always work. The average Peruvian want to grow, to work, and to, let's say, if you are young, to create a family, because here is a really conservative country. We are a really Catholic country. We want to create a family, to develop and our children. For example, now our grandparents, their biggest desire was their grandchildren go to university, and they could reach that.
Yeah.
So that they now their grandchildren they went to university, and we are creating a new generation with a lot of people, good people, professionals, people that went to university, and they also know how to speak 2 3 languages. So we have
Yeah.
a huge human resource. Unfortunately, our politicians, they always have that speech that take from Europe, that we need a bigger state. No, in Spanish is estado presente. Also, like in
Mhm.
Argentina, the Kirchnerist speech, no, that they want to create more social programs because they consider they need a social justice. No, to eliminate those economic difference. So unfortunately, here in Peru, we don't have like, let's say, a Peruvian Milei. Nowadays, we don't have it. But at least we have, for example, the mayor of Lima, of the capital. The mayor of Lima, he will pursue the presidency now next year that we have elections. This guy is not like Milei. His name is Rafael Lopez Aliaga, but he's more like Bolsonaro, let's say, in Brazil.
Mhm.
No? More that style of right wing. It's more style of Bolsonaro. We don't have the like, let's say, we don't have a libertarian party here. We are just in the beginning steps of description. We don't reach the 2026 election. Maybe it will be for the 2031 election. But and there are some really good guys, especially from academia, that they talk about the benefits of free markets, the benefit of liberty, not only economic liberty but also the civic, let's say, liberties in our country. So apart from Mario Vargas Llosa, that he passed away like 8 months ago,
Yeah.
and Rato Soto, we have people known like Enrique Gersi. He's a really well-known lawyer. We have other economists like uh, Paul Laurent.
Yeah.
We have historians like Martin Portillo. But the good thing is, for example, that Huerta de Soto, no, the Spanish anarcho-capitalist economist, no,
Yes.
Huerta de Soto, he will receive the honoris causa award in San Marcos University. San, Mar- San Marcos University nowadays is a public university, but it's the most ancient university in all America. It was founded in 1553. So
Yeah.
he will receive that award on April, now next year. So it's a really good news because we are spreading, little by little, the ANCAP, the libertarian ANCAP ideas here in Peru. And that's a good sign because normally the public university is taken by the Marxists, by left thinkers. But San Marcos, the biggest and the most Asian university in all America, now including North America,
Yeah. Yeah.
they
It's 80 years older than Harvard.
yeah,
Yeah.
so with award Jesus Huerta de Soto, no, which is one of Milei's biggest, no,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
influence.
Yeah. He's Milei's teacher. Yeah. And I should point out, I did get a hold of his email and I invited him, but he said he doesn't do podcasts. So, but I would love to have Jesus Huerta de Soto. Yes, that man, Milei's teacher. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. I assume also that it's a pretty well respected university. I mean, usually the really old ones are, right? I mean, it's considered elite. It's considered the college for smart people, right? Is that correct too, or not?
yeah, I still have like, let's say, some prestige,
Yes.
but unfortunately, the last, let's say, 20, 30 years, public universities here in Peru are taken by the hard leftists, now by
Oh
the
yeah.
communists. So it was really strange for us that in San Marcos, that normally every 3 months, the some students and some teachers also from the Communist Party, they take the campus. They don't allow anyone to enter. No, they say we want more salaries or we want these, we want those, and everybody, every Peruvian, every single Peruvian must pay them with our taxes. That's horrible. But we were really surprised at that San Marcos because they changed the university authorities, and the new authorities they see other ideas. No, that's a good point. And nowadays they want to award Jesus Huerta de Soto. So we are really surprised, but we're also really happy because that shows that though these ideas of liberty are entering not only to the public debate, they're entering university, they're entering the news, they're entering also in the culture because, as I told you last week, we were selling books because uh, we have a really big festival, let's say. Now we have a big book fair, let's say, and we sell more than 100 books. No, and in the Spanish language, Unión Editorial is the biggest, uh, let's say, book company that sells Hayek, Mises, and all the liberal.
Yeah.
libertarian author. So we could sell in my hometown more than 100 books. So people are interested in these ideas. No, so that's a good sign for us. For example, I have here a book from Unión Editorial. This is from Alberdi, the Argentinian lawyer.
Yeah, Juan
Uh,
Bautista Alberti, yeah.
yeah, so
Some of these probably never even get into English. Unfortunately, none of Milei's books have gotten into English. But yes.
yeah, but fortunately, for example, we sold a lot of books about Millet. Just leave me one moment. I will check it.
Yes. Yes, but that's why I'm doing this show, is because there's so much we can learn from Javier Milei.
Of course, this book, for example, I show you this book about Millet.
Yes.
We sold like more than 10 copies of this.
Oh, wow.
So the people know here in my hometown and in Peru, they know who's Millet and what he does and what he's doing to improve the life of Argentinians. No, we have also this kind of books, Unión Editorial from Spain. No, most of them, for example, the new collection of Liberty. It was supervised by Jesus Huerta de Soto. No? So we were selling all of these books by Unión Editorial, and we could last week we could sell more than 100 copies. So
Yeah,
it's a
who was
really
that
good
again?
sign.
Your books by who?
Uh, no, those are different authors, but
Yeah.
that is this kind of collection that have these colors
Yeah.
were collected by Jesus Huerta de Soto. No, but they
Huerta
are
de Soto.
different
Yeah, I thought
authors.
you were saying something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, again. Yeah.
So yeah, so the ideas of liberty are entering. We have also a huge organization, Students for Liberty. So in Peru, right now, we have like 50 coordinators. All of them are really young. No, they are university, they are college students. They also make events. They also talk, no, to their classmates, to their professors, and they're bringing those ideas to the debate. Because in university, the university was originally made to debate ideas, and we have a really risky
Yeah.
tendency that there were only one speech available, no, to speak. Normally, is the communist speech or the new progressist wokeism speech. No, for example, on
Yes.
my university, I study on a private university, but for example, I remember clearly in 2019, they were spreading the ideas, those woke ideas. No, um, I didn't share them. It wasn't until I knew how to combat them. Thank you to Milei, because since 1990, mm, I used to watch Milei's videos, also with Agustin Laje. They were telling us to combat those ideas with the, let's say, the cultural war, not the cultural battle. I used to speak. So in Peru, it was kind of easy battle because most of us have, like, let's say, a conservative and Catholic mentality. So, for example, the woke feminism, the woke transgender agenda, they couldn't apply that because they have a really disapproval from from most of the people. No, most of the people, they don't like these woke ideas. Unfortunately, the old Marxist thinking, yeah, it's still alive. No, so we need to combat them. No, our enemy, for example, in Peru, is not wokeism because we don't have too much of that ideas, but the communists, the old Marxist, classical Marxist ideas, they are still on the way of thinking of some people. So we are against that.
Yes. It seems like those Marxist ideas are more popular with the poor people out in the country than they are in the cities, whereas in America, it's exactly reversed. Is that true? What's going on down there? That's the people in the cities tend to be more capitalist.
Well, that's sort of a myth. For me, it's not 100 correct because you see a lot of Marxist people that come from really good, even aristocratic families. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
really ironic.
it's that way everywhere.
Yeah, it's ironic. We call them caviar, like let's say like the product, like the food, like that product that comes from the Caspian Sea, the caviar. We call them
Caviar,
caviar.
yes.
Yeah, because they're Soviets, but they have a lot of money because caviar is really expensive. So we call them caviars because they talk about social justice, they talk about the revolution, but they live on the best on the best, let's say, zones in the city. They they have a lot of properties. Sometimes a lot of them travel to United States. For example, there was a congresswoman called Maria Agüero from my hometown. Technically, she's a Marxist, but she had two properties in Miami, and she used to to travel to Miami at least twice a year. So she's a Marxist congresswoman that
Yeah.
have property in the United States. It's really ironic.
And how many people in Peru ever leave the country?
Uh,
Very few, I
you-
suppose.
how many people leave the country?
Yeah, how many of them ever travel outside the country even once?
Mm,
International travel really is, somewhat of a luxury.
yeah, it used to be really few people on last century, but I think nowadays is really let's say it's increasing the numbers. Nowadays, I can say like a 40% because we are, for example, we share borders with Bolivia, with Chile, and it's really easy to get into those countries. We don't need passport. With our ID cards, we can enter. And for example, nowadays for us, Bolivia, it's a really cheap country. So a lot of people from South Peru, we go to Bolivia to make some tourism.
Yeah.
Also Chile. So, for example, but if you talk about Europe, United States, yeah, well, you need to have more money to get into them. But
Yeah.
a lot of young people, they pursue their dreams, and for example, they always look up for some scholarship, and most of them, no young people, because we have a really talented people. Not only for someone engineering or in law, we have a lot of talented people in sports, also in art. So they reach some scholarship, and they reach to travel, not to Europe, to the United States. So I can say that almost a lot of people can travel near to Bolivia, to Chile, even to Argentina. I entered to Argentina only with my ID card, also to Ecuador and Colombia.
Yeah.
But most of young people are the ones that they can travel to
Yeah.
the United States and Europe, thanks for their
Yeah.
scholarship or their work and travel programs, or also they have parents their parents support. No, here we are like as I told you, a conservative country, so we are really united with our
Yeah.
family. The family also supports not only your parents, also your aunts and your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents. They also give you some money
Yeah.
to buy your planting.
Yeah. Peru is still at about having 1.9 kids per woman, so that's a good sign. At least compared to some other countries, although 1.9 is still not enough to maintain the population as it is. Uh, you don't really see a lot of, I don't know. I did see some, what I would call feminism in Lima, a few people wearing little signs and stuff. I don't know if that's taking over or not. I certainly hope it doesn't. But what can you comment about that? I mean, how easy is it to get divorced in Peru, for example?
Well, let's say like not only because of woke movement and feminism, but because of we have a big concern here. The problem about security. Nowadays criminality rates have been increased, so a lot of people get killed, and that is creating like a psychosocial problem in our society because people are getting more anxious, are getting more angry. And if you are getting more anxious and angry during your work time, no, when you go outside for your
Mm,
job, when you go outside to buy a thing, and you start to insult people you're always anxious because there can be a burglar that can kill you. A lot of people get killed only because they defend themselves to protect their cell phone. No, so that's a really problem, and because of that, we are creating like mental disease problems. So we have now more episodes of, let's say, domestic violence. So that's why we are with that problem of the increasing of the divorce rate, not because the couples don't love themselves, because they are getting more anxious, they're getting more violent, and that's caused by like, let's say, a social problem. It's not only individual problem, but that that rising of violence, that rising of anxiousness is creating problems in our society. And that is caused directly by the government, because the government should be, no, technically, since Hobbes times, it was created to protect their citizens, no, to offer them security. And nowadays, Peruvian government is failing in that, because the the security problem, especially since we allowed to enter millions of people from Venezuela and also from Colombia. And yeah, there are a lot of them that are really honest and hardworking people, but also a lot of criminals, really, really, really bloody and cruel criminals entered Peru. So they are assaulting, for example, the bus drivers in Peru, in the capital. So people are afraid to take in the bus because they were shooting the buses. They kidnapped some people, some businessmen. They were kidnapped. So we have that insecurity problem that is creating also another problem in our society.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, people are anxious. They definitely are a little more. They're a little more. I think it just creates everybody gets a little more tense. They're more likely to yell louder and things like that, and it just definitely does not go. It definitely cannot always go well. You know, uh, one thing I've noticed, Alejandro, is you all still seem to have some. There seems to be a certain degree of what I would call street justice in Peru, which you don't have in a lot of more, let's say, modern countries anymore. And I'm going to share this video here where there's a lady. This was on Twitter, where there's a lady who's somebody tries to grab this woman, and then later the people round him up and they beat him up, so to speak, publicly. It's just like they dispense justice on the street. I don't know if this is necessarily a good or you could say it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely
Well,
something
let's say,
something you will see in Peru that this,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. First, we can see the video, and after I will share my
yeah,
experience.
I'm sharing this now. Yeah, now look at this. Yeah, this is from some
Can you
obviously.
turn into full screen?
Yeah.
Into full screen? Some.
Okay. Yeah. Let's put it on full screen. Yeah. Oops. So we're there. I don't know. There's no good way to. Oh, there we go. Yeah. There we go.
Mira, mira, ay, quiere aprovecharse de... Sí, la quiere violar. Por eso la quiere desmayar a golpes.
I don't know what he's trying to do. What? Can you figure out what that shirt is, by the way? Damn the.
Now he was trying to steal her
Yeah.
cell phone, most probably.
Yeah.
He's escaping.
He's sort of escaping.
Yeah, and those are the neighbors,
Yeah.
from your street. Always
I don't know. This looks like and then of course suddenly we see this guy tied to a pole. This, I don't think this would happen in America. This is what I'm referring to. Yeah, I'm just glad to see there's a low tolerance line, right? Because we see the guy tied to a pole. Ready? I think that's kind of enough, but I just thought that was something that definitely tells me something about your country. Which I do in some ways I don't want to see this happen, but compared to what we have going on here now, where in places in San Francisco, they don't prosecute shoplifters under $1,000. I mean, it's nice to see there are men out there who will stand up and defend a woman in that situation.
Well, that sort of events happens, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, they don't happen every time. You know
yeah,
why? Because they were, for example, they assault you like five people with guns, so it's more
yeah,
difficult to to reach them and to, let's say, torture them a little bit, let them suffer for the things they done.
yeah,
But uh, let's say in the Andes Mountains, for example, you won't see Venezuelans. No, they're kind of, I don't know if it's xenophobia or a little bit of racism, but in those little towns near the Andes Mountains, you won't find any Venezuelans because when they saw a Venezuelan committing a crime, they not only attach him to the post, no, they got a metal or a wood stick and they punish him in the arms and legs. No, so they broke. Technically, they broke his arms, his legs, and send them to the police so they can do whatever they want to him. So, um, in the city, the problem is in the big cities that people don't have the time. They got stressed, they got anxious, and they don't do that like on justice things. And also because it's risky, because in the city, most of those criminals are really, really, they have a lot of weapons, not only guns. They also, I don't know why, I don't know how, but they could reach. They have grenades, they have explosives, they have even bigger
yeah,
weapons, not only guns. So that's a really huge concern.
yeah,
Have a huge security problem. But for example, no, the people are getting angry, and for example, 2 months ago, they were two people, no, two assassins that they were escaping with a motorbike. So a car behind them, they crashed them, and also they took them, and uh, the people just spread them some gasoline, and they burn them alive. So that things can happen because people are getting angry, because police normally they don't do anything. Or you go to the police station, you make the noise, but normally few things happen. No, and the worst thing that our judiciary system, they guarantees the rights of the criminal. So it doesn't matter if the police took to the jail some criminals, but 2 3 days after, a judge can release them. It's ironic. It's terrible.
yeah. That's certainly we haven't talked about Fujimori much, but he seems to be one of the more controversial presidents. And although a lot of people say he did Peru a lot of good when he basically crushed the Shining Path. Is the Shining Path pretty much dead now, or do
Well,
you still have some remnants of that? Because of course the ideas still exist, and the people who are funding the Shining Path still exist. I mean, what can you tell us about that?
the Shining Path leader, no, Abimael Guzman, he died last year. So he was
Yes.
in jail. Yeah, he was in prison, but they are still thinking about him as their leader. Let's say like the mystical leader. He was called here the President Gonzalo. So nowadays, terrorism is not like a big threat to Peruvian security, but I don't know why we allow them get elected.
Yeah.
A democratic process. They are against democracy. The Marxists, they were always against democracy. But incredibly, now they are pursuing a seat on the Congress on a democratic election. So they allowed, for example, some candidates that have, let's say, really controversial past. They allow them to participate, no, on elections. But for example, the last units of Shining Path, now they are in the jungle on a region that is called the Brian. That is a big valley near the jungle that it connects three different rivers: the river Eneng, Mantaro, and Apurimac. So there are three different rivers. They're
Yeah.
really, really hard to get there. And nowadays, those Marxist terrorists, they are allied with narco traffic. So
Yes,
that's
they
their
are.
way, their new way to access to money. It's like selling cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Th- Yeah. This is what I tell people. There's still gangs that hide out in the rainforest. They're kind of like pirates, and sometimes they will rob people and stuff like that. I mean, if I was on the run and I needed to hide someplace, the Amazon rainforest is where I would go. I mean, if I, absolutely if I wanted to go somewhere where I would not be found, that's probably the one place where you can still go. Is the rainforest. Uh, it's there's definitely
well, yeah, it's also dangerous. No, if you
yeah.
don't know well the ground, if you don't know well the zone, you can get lost.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, and you got
some
the
animals,
alligators and the
yeah, they can attack you. But
yeah, big
uh,
alligators, bugs, piranhas. Yeah, there's all kind. Yeah, you're just trading one group of people who want to kill you for other things that want to kill you. Yeah, it's a
mm, it's kind of dangerous. But you know, the problem here in Peru, we have like many concerns, but an interesting solution for the criminals and also to the terrorists, it should be that the good, the honest citizens should
yes,
get access to weapons. No, so as a libertarian, I
yeah,
would defend the second. Let's say in the United States, in many of states, you can use weapons freely. No,
yes.
so I think that we should create, like, let's say, the Second Amendment in Peru, because we need to defend ourselves. Because
Mhm.
police normally they do very little things to
Oh,
combat criminality. So
yeah,
we need to get more access to weapons, especially the honest people, the honest citizens,
cheap.
that we allowed to have our psychological analysis before buying weapons. So I think it will be a really good measure to combat terrorists, to combat the criminals, because we have a lot of criminal bands from Colombia, from Venezuela, for example, the Tren de Aragua. We have that criminal
Yes.
Venezuelan band in Peru, and they are operating in the face, no, of the authorities. That's crazy.
Oh, by the way, Guzman died on the 11th of September. You know who else died on the 11th of September, but a different year? Salvador Allende. We'll have to remember September 11th just for that reason. Salvador Allende was in Chile, so another communist. It seems to be the day that communists die. I will have to
Yeah.
remember that day. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Well, it's good to know. I mean, I once watched The Milk of Sorrow, which dealt a lot with the activities of the Shining Path. It was pretty. That was the only Peruvian movie that got the nomination for best foreign film by the American Academy of Motion Pictures. So yeah, Peru is certainly I don't know if I'll make it back there. You live in Arequipa, by the way. Can you tell us a little bit about Arequipa? Because everybody who I know who's been to that town loves that town. It's not really that well known outside of Peru, but it sounds like it's just a lovely place. What can you tell us about Arequipa?
Just a funny and maybe traumatic fact
Yeah,
is that Abimael was born in Arequipa.
yeah,
So it's kind of weird.
yeah,
But you know, uh, Arequipa is a really interesting place because I just wanted to show you how Fujimori uh, he imprisoned like this Abimael. I don't know if he's showing.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can see he was with his classic uniform and he was behind those bars. It was really ironic. It was really
Yes.
memorable event. You know, he was
Yes.
like an animal.
Yeah.
He was,
I was also thinking, did you know Mario Vargas Llosa? Did you know him by chance?
yeah, he was born in Arequipa also.
Yeah, he was very much, the Peruvian Nobel laureate who supported Milei and supported a lot of liberal values there. I've talked about him with a few people on here. Well, it's I've also read somewhere that the origin of the word Peru is unknown. Is that true?
Yeah, talking about something about history. Well,
Yeah.
we don't have the exact definition of what Peru means. Some historians think that uh, they referred about a river that is in northern Peru that is called the
Yes.
Viru River. So they call most probably the word Peru comes from that river, no, from that name. But I can say that, for example, Arequipa is also a name that we don't know the exact meaning. Some people say that it comes from the Quechua language, that
Yes.
that was the language that was spoken in the Inca Empire. That
Yes.
let's say the translation it would be a good place to rest here.
Yeah.
And this is a good place to rest, and actually it is. It's a really good place to rest because Arequipa is in a valley, as I told you, a big fertile valley full of green, but we are surrounded by the desert because if you travel by car, let's say 1 hour and a half by car, and you find the Pacific Ocean, you find the sea, you see the coast, and here in Peru, our coast is, let's say, a really desertic coast. Our coast is surrounded by a big desert, but also if you travel by car from Arequipa, let's say also 1 hour and a half, you found the Andes Mountain, and you found
Yes.
a really interesting ecosystem that you find only in South America. That is called the plateau, no, the Andes Plateau.
Yes.
So we have like a really special environment in Peru, in Arequipa especially. You will always find a good weather. Let's say 20 degrees Celsius almost all the year.
Yeah.
And a lot of people from Peru, no, and also from other parts of the world, they come to Arequipa because Peruvian cooking is one of the best, not the best cuisines in the world. But in Arequipa, especially, you will always eat good, no, and a lot. We used to we always want big portions, huge portions of food, and so our cuisine is considered the best or one of the best in the world. But in Arequipa, is like, let's say, the cooking capital, no, in in the country. Let's say, let's say is uh, the culinary capital in Peru. Is a culinary destiny in Peru.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of things, and it's
And
Lima is, the Lima metro area is about 10 million of about 31 or 32 million people. But then you have these other cities, they're a little smaller, but they're still all pretty nice cities. But it looks like Arequipa might be one of the bigger ones now. And of course, I should warn
mm,
people, if you don't like high altitudes, Arequipa is well over 2,000 meters high. So it's definitely one of the higher cities you'll visit. But there's Peru has a lot of natural beauty. The Lima metropolitan area has about one third of the country's population. So it's the big city that dominates. But then you've got these other cities that are maybe about a million or so, and between 500,000 and a million. And there's that's where you can find some really amazing cities, I think, that have a lot more character. A place like Iquitos or Arequipa or some of those other towns. It's Whereas the Lima metro area has about 10 million. I mean, You'll have to fly to Lima to get to Peru, but then you can go to these other cities, and you've got 3 or 4 airlines there too, which is pretty wild for such a small country. It's a Yep.
Yeah, but well, for example, a really important city in northern Peru is
Yeah,
Piura.
Pura,
And for
yeah.
example, Piura, they live like 2 million people, but it's crazy. In Piura, for example, temperatures are really high. Normally, it's like 30 degrees, but on summer it can go to 40 degrees. So imagine 2 million people living in a city that have 40 degrees.
Yes.
Like, guys,
And
we
you
can,
you pointed out that Arequipa stays cooler, but one reason why it stays cooler is because it's so high up. Cities that are higher altitudes have cooler temperatures.
yeah, it is. For example, Puno, that is besides the Titicaca Lake, we always have like 10 degrees temperature almost all the
Yes.
year. But it's behind, it's really, it's next to the Titicaca Lake. It's a really incredible city, Puno.
Yeah.
Technically, an ancient legend tells that the Inca Empire was born in the Titicaca Lake. No, the first Inca, Manco Capac, emerged from the Titicaca Lake, no, with his wife, Mama Ocllo, to create a big empire. No, they were the sons of the sun, no, of the sun god. That is was called the Inti. No, in ancient Quechua language, the sun is the Inti. So actually, before the Peruvian sol, we have a currency named Inti, Peruvian Inti. But unfortunately, the Peruvian Inti has a really unstable value. We had a hyperinflation on 1989. So we reached like, let's say, I think 4 or 5,000% of inflation rate. So after that, on 1990, Fujimori make an economic shock, and we also changed the currency. So our actual currency, Peruvian sol, was created in 1991. So we have also an story, an economic history there, because we used to have a stable currency. We used to have a lot of inflation process in our history. But fortunately, since 1993, we didn't have inflation almost.
Well, this has been Arequipa is now the second largest city in Peru. And after that, there's Trujillo and Chiclayo and Piura. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of these cities.
Yeah, for
There's
example, now Chiclayo is getting famous in
yes,
Peru, especially because the new pope, no, the new Catholic Church pope, he is actually Peruvian because he have Peruvian DNA ID card. No,
yes.
uh,
He has citizenship. Yes, he was in Peru for quite a long time. Yeah,
he was living in Chiclayo for many years.
yeah,
So people nowadays, especially the Catholics, pilgrims, now they go to Chiclayo's main church because that's where the Pope, no, used to make
yeah,
the mass.
yeah.
It's kind of
They
interesting
probably
phenomenon.
claim, cities like that like to claim somebody like that as their own. Well, yes. Well, Alejandro, it's been great having you on here. Have anything else to say before we go?
Yes, I encourage everyone on your audience to visit Peru,
Yeah,
obviously. We have a really diverse country. We have really delicious food, one of the
yeah,
best cuisines in the world. And we also have, like, let's say, a really stable and strong currency. And we also have, like, really good human resource. No, a lot of individuals that they
yeah,
want to work hard, they want to develop themselves, and we are spreading the ideas of liberty. So I encourage every one of you to visit Peru. We also have our problems. We are looking up to resolve the insecurity problem and resolving that, and also the corruption. The corruption is caused not only by the politicians because of, but it
yeah,
was caused most of all by the government, because if the government, if the state exists, it will be corruption. No, so if we don't eliminate the state, there will always be corruption. So we need to reduce, at least reduce the government, reduce the state if we want to pursue if we want to combat the corruption. No, so that's why we are fighting for. No, we want to spread the ideas of liberty. We want uh, to get the state reduced to its minimum expression to reach liberty. No, in Peru and in all Latin America.
Yes, let's hope so. And as I pointed out, as I said, we were talking earlier, I said, Peru has the most species of birds of any country in the world. It's just really diverse. So thank you, Alejandro. Where can we find you out there on the net? You got a website or anything like that, or Twitter?
Well, right now you can find me on LinkedIn because I had Instagram and Facebook, but I got banned because of my speech.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, but you can find me also. I have, let's say, I always post on a newspaper, on a virtual
Yeah.
newspaper weekly. I always talk about geopolitics. So I've sent you the links to my
Oh,
to my
yes.
to my articles on that newspaper. I
Yeah.
always talk about geopolitics and economies, always with a libertarian perspective.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, I invite you all to read. You can find me like Alejandro Rameth on LinkedIn if you want to connect.
Yes.
But after, if I create another Instagram profile, I will tell.
Yes, certainly. Well, please like this. Please like the show. Subscribe to the channel. Go buy my novel, Escape from the Village. Check out my Substack, and people are giving me money at buymeacoffee.com. Thank you, Alejandro. I'm Chris Baker. We're out. Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you.